When I stepped off the plane, my blazer still smelled faintly of saffron and oak barrels. Dubai had been a Blur Contracts tastings, late-night calls with Zurich buyers, but I'd sealed it. 3 years of negotiations, and now Lux Grocer was officially ours, a $6 million annual distribution deal that would place Lyon almonds in flagship stores across Europe. Prestige, reach, legacy, everything I'd fought for. I didn't even go home. I drove straight from SFO to the farm office, my suitcase still in the back seat, heels scuffed from customs, my skin tight with desert air and jet lag. I was ready to celebrate, ready to call a staff meeting and announce that we weren't just California's quiet almond supplier anymore, we were global. But when I walked through the glass doors, the front desk was empty. No chatter, no clinking mugs, no scent of coffee brewing in the back. Just silence. My assistant's chair was vacant. Her usual sticky notes, client calls, invoicing reminders were gone. I walked slowly to my office. On the center of my desk sat a white envelope. No stamp. Just my name in bold ink, too sharp to be friendly. My father's handwriting. I opened it. My fingers didn't shake. I'd seen his signatures on hundreds of things, leases, contracts, bank drafts. But this one was different. It was a formal notice from the board. Effective immediately, Matteo Leoni is appointed Chief Executive Officer of Lyon Orchards. I stopped reading. Didn't need to see the legalese. Didn't want to. Matteo. My younger brother. The same Matteo who once called our premium varietal too nutty in front of a Tokyo buyer. The same Matteo who missed every harvest for 4 years because he was exploring branding. He was the CEO now. I stood there for a long time. I didn't sit. Didn't scream. My mind didn't spiral, it calcified. On the wall behind my desk hung a photo of the orchard 10 years ago, overgrown, sun-scorched, barely profitable. And I remembered the first morning I arrived with no salary. No team, just a binder of ideas and dirt under my nails. Now I was out. And Matteo somehow was in. I walked to the cabinet, pulled out my private client folder, and laid it gently in my bag. I didn't even close the office door behind me. I just walked out keys in hand and didn't look back. The asphalt hissed under my tires as I pulled away from the orchard, the office shrinking in my rearview mirror like a past life I no longer owed anything to. No one called after me. No one ran into the lot asking where I was going. They didn't even deserve a slammed door. My tote sat beside me in the passenger seat, leather soft, worn at the seams, now carrying everything that mattered. My personal export dashboards. My notes on European tariff shifts. My internal pricing model that outperformed every projection they ever made. And my client ledger, the one no one knew existed because no one else had built those relationships from zero. By the time I turned off the main highway and onto the gravel road that wound through the San Benito Hills, the tightness in my chest had started to settle. This house had been a side project once, an old adobe I restored with leftover grant funds and sweat equity. County didn't even list it as part of the Lyon estate. That was intentional. I wanted something that wasn't under their name. The house was still small, still quiet, clay tiles weathered, fruit trees stubborn, but the lock turned with a familiar click and the air inside held no history except mine. I poured a glass of water, sat on the cool tile floor, and let the silence find me. Not the brittle, tense silence of boardrooms or family dinners. This was a silence with space. I could hear myself breathe. Matteo didn't just take a role. He inherited an orchard wired with systems he never bothered to learn. Inventory timelines, crop rotation schedules, water rights coordination. He didn't know where the roots began, let alone how deep they ran. They thought they'd installed a replacement. What they'd actually done was pull out the compass and leave the ship spinning. I opened my notebook and wrote one line they'll call. Then I set it aside. Walked outside barefoot and let the cold soil remind me that I had always been the one who knew how to grow things. It didn't take long. Less than 2 weeks after I left, I started hearing things. Not from anyone in the family, they were too proud, too panicked. But from the ground. From the growers, the buyers, the field staff who still knew how to reach me without making it public. Matteo had launched something called Almonds for the Modern Age. Neon tone labels, QR-coded packaging, wellness buzzwords. He flew in a TikTok chef who made almond foam on live stream and partnered with an influencer who couldn't pronounce the varietals correctly. He replaced the matte black heritage tins with soft pastel eco pouches that looked like diaper branding. He called my work nostalgic in a trade magazine interview. said the brand needed a reset, that consumers wanted fresh, young, and sustainable. He didn't mention that our heritage model already included all three, just without hashtags. The orchard was still running, but it was running blind. The interns didn't know which rows were still rotating in lower yield cycles. Distribution schedules shifted without notice. He dissolved the seasonal tasting series that brought in our high-end buyers, claimed it was elitist. Then came the email I knew was coming, a quiet message forwarded by a friend at Lux Grocer. Matteo had tried to reintroduce the brand with a flashy PDF, all trend and no depth. The buyer responded with 4 words. "This feels embarrassingly juvenile. Deal terminated. All $6 million of it." They were unraveling quickly. The orchard staff started whispering. Matteo stopped showing up at sunrise. His meetings got shorter. My old assistant, bless her, sent me a photo of the break room corkboard. Someone had tacked up a sticky note that just read, "Where's Serafina?" I didn't reply. I didn't post. I didn't counter their press releases. I didn't need to. Instead, I sat with my coffee on the adobe porch and flipped open my notebook again. Page 1, clean and precise leverage portfolio. I wrote down the names of 7 clients who had already reached out. Quietly. Off record. All asking the same thing in their own way. If you're planning something, let us know early. The call came just after dusk. My mother's voice was honeyed, careful practiced. Just a casual family dinner, she said. Matteo's idea. He wants us all together again. No pressure. I said I'd come. I didn't ask who'd be there. I already knew. The estate house had been redone too perfectly. Reclaimed wood beams, soft jazz humming, Edison bulbs casting curated shadows. It looked more like a boutique hotel than a working farm. I walked in without hesitation. Matteo stood at the head of the table, all confidence and cologne. Serafina. He boomed, arms open like he hadn't bulldozed me out of my own legacy. "You look amazing." I took a seat 2 chairs away and folded my napkin like a contract. My mother leaned in with a tight smile. "We've been talking about you." All good things, of course. Dinner was plated like a photo shoot, almond sliders, beet foam branded menus that read, "Leone Orchards Rooted Forward." Matteo cleared his throat, lifted his glass, and launched into a monologue. "This is a new era. Agriculture meets lifestyle. We're partnering with wellness brands, adding zero waste lines. The industry is evolving, and so are we." I let him finish, let the room nod, let the silence settle like mist. Then I set my fork down. "That's great," I said calmly. "Just one question. Did your wellness partners mention the $6 million distributor you lost last week?" He blinked. The room froze. "You know Lux Grocer. The one I closed in Dubai. The one that pulled out after seeing the new branding." My mother paled. Matteo opened his mouth. I didn't wait. "They said it felt like a juice startup." Their words, not mine. Also mentioned I was the only reason they stayed as long as they did. He tried to laugh, but it caught in his throat. "Come on, Sarah. This is supposed to be a celebration." I looked around. "Then let's celebrate the truth. You didn't lose them because of a slogan. You lost them because you never earned their trust." I stood, laid my napkin on the table, and walked out before anyone could argue. I returned to the adobe that night without a single word from anyone. No follow-up call. No apology. Not even a performative message from Matteo. That told me everything I needed to know. They still hadn't realized what was actually gone. Not just me. The blueprint. The memory of what it took to turn that orchard from a seasonal tax write-off into an international name. I pulled out a clean notebook from the drawer. Leather-bound, the kind I only used when the plan wasn't just survival, but architecture. Across the first page, I wrote in steady ink, leverage ledger. Page 1, clients. I listed names carefully, one at a time. People who had already texted. Buyers who'd said, "Let me know if you land somewhere else." A private chef in Napa. A distributor in Boston. A boutique chocolatier in Belgium. They weren't following a brand, they'd been following me. Page 2, vendors, pallet shippers, label printers. The freight broker who once rerouted an entire shipment overnight when a fire shut down I-5. People who owed me not because I demanded it, but because I'd earned it with quiet, relentless effort. Page 3. Contracts. One's up for renewal. One's signed with grace periods I negotiated into the fine print. Most of the names weren't even in the Orchard CRM, they were in my phone. In my memory. As I wrote, my phone buzzed. Then again. LinkedIn. Email. Signal. A recruiter from an agritech startup. A boutique grower offering a stake. A Napa vineyard wanting consulting low-key but high impact. I ignored them all. I wasn't looking to be poached. I was taking inventory. Not of what I'd lost, but of what was still mine even off paper. I closed the notebook, slid it under my pillow, and poured a glass of the 2020 Reserve. The one they never appreciated because it didn't have a storybook label, just flavor, patience, and real roots. Tomorrow I'd start making decisions. Quietly. Cleanly. On my terms. The invitation came from a name I recognized immediately. Ravel Orchards, a competitor I'd once outbid for a luxury hotel chain in Lisbon. Their COO, a sharp, observant man named Ellis Corinne, asked for a quiet lunch. No agenda, he promised. Just conversation. We met at a vineyard cafe outside St. Helena. Warm air, no press. He wore jeans and a linen jacket, casual but precise. I wore black not out of mourning, out of memory. He didn't waste time. No flattery, no fluff. Just a folder placed neatly between our water glasses. Inside a full offer. Equity. A small but elite team. Autonomy over a new division focused on boutique export. Salary that nearly doubled my last one. And a signing bonus so generous it bordered on apology for all the years men like him had underestimated women like me. I didn't touch the folder. This is impressive, I said. Ellis nodded. It's real. It would have tempted me 10 years ago. He smiled knowingly. But I'm not building someone else's empire. Not this time. He didn't flinch. Didn't push. If you change your mind, he said, the door stays open. I nodded once stood and left my water untouched. It wasn't ego. It wasn't principle. It was clarity. They didn't need me. They needed the version of me that had already spent a decade bleeding for someone else's name. But I'd already built a brand once with no team, no budget, no roadmap. This time I didn't need permission. I needed space. And I already knew where to begin. That night, I opened my notebook again and added 2 more pages, people who could fund a new label without strings, and the 3 buyers I'd trust to carry a rebrand without blinking. The logo didn't exist yet, but the foundation had already been poured. She didn't call, she just showed up. Ilaria stood on my porch like she hadn't watched me be erased from the company I built. She held a Tupperware container and wore that apron she only brought out when she needed something. I baked your favorite, she said. Raisin and olive like Nonna used to. I let her in. Not because I was softened, but because I was ready. The kitchen filled with the smell of nostalgia of Sunday mornings before the world got political, before roles were divided and titles mattered more than roots. She moved around the space like she still had claim to it. But I knew she didn't. We sat across from each other at the small table I'd sanded down myself. She poured tea. I waited. Mateo's not doing well. She began voice light like it wouldn't shatter. There's more than he expected. Deadlines, shipments, investors. He wasn't ready. I didn't nod. I already knew. She folded a napkin into quarters slowly, then looked up. We need you back. Quietly. Just to stabilize things. Behind the scenes. There it was. I took a sip of the tea. Then I spoke. If I come back, it's not behind the scenes. It's not quiet. It's on my terms. She blinked. 35% equity, I said. Co-CEO title. Public step down from Mateo. He can stay on as brand ambassador if he wants. Smile for the cameras, but no control. No veto. She stared at me like I'd grown wings. That's a lot. It's fair. And it's non-negotiable. She looked down at the pastry between us untouched. Your father won't agree. Then he can watch it collapse. I'm not here to patch holes, Ilaria. I'm here to own the damn ship. She turned toward the sink, rinsing a clean glass that didn't need rinsing. Don't do this to him, she whispered. I'm not doing anything to him, I said, standing. He did this to himself. And you helped? I walked to the door, my voice steady. When you're ready to lead with sense instead of sentiment, you know where to find me. The tasting room was minimalist and sterile, floor-to-ceiling windows, neutral walls, jazz humming faintly from hidden speakers. A place built to make power look civilized. I arrived exactly at 10 a.m. Not early. Not late. just precise. My father sat at the far end, flanked by Ilaria and Matteo. The board members lined the table like witnesses. No wine, no coffee. Just silence and the weight of what they all knew was coming. I walked to my seat, placed a folder on the table, and slid it forward. The terms were printed in clean type, no embellishment. Co-CEO, 35% equity, full veto authority. Matteo removed from operations and reassigned to branding. Permanent. Matteo gave a theatrical laugh like we were still performing for guests. "You're serious," he said. "This reads like a coup." I didn't blink. "It reads like reality." He turned to our father. "Dad?" My father didn't speak right away. He stared at the document, then at me. His hands were folded, his face unreadable. Finally, he cleared his throat. "You built this," he said slowly. I didn't want to admit it, but the numbers don't lie. Matteo's mouth dropped open. "You said I deserved a shot. I gave you one," he replied. "And Serafina gave you a lifeline." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was final. Matteo stood shoulders stiff. "So she just gets everything back." I looked at him steady. "I'm not asking for what I had. I'm taking what I earned." Ilaria reached for the contract, scanning it like she might find softness between the lines. There wasn't any. I pushed a second signed copy toward them. "You have 48 hours. After that, the buyers calling me get a full documented report of what's going wrong at Leone Orchards. With signatures, no one moved, no one dared. As I turned to leave, Matteo muttered, "What am I supposed to do now?" I didn't turn around. "Be the face," I said over my shoulder. "You're good at that." I walked through the front doors of the orchard office just after sunrise. The same hour I used to arrive before titles and boardrooms got in the way. The scent of soil and almond dust still hung in the air. Some things hadn't changed. The difference was this time no one asked who I was. No one questioned why I was there. A few heads turned. A few staff members stood instinctively. I nodded once and kept walking. The main conference room was already filling with department leads. Some faces I knew well. Others were new tents waiting to see what kind of leadership was walking back in. I took the seat at the head of the table. No announcement, no speech. I opened my folder and began. "Matteo will be moving into the brand ambassador role," I said. "He'll oversee media partnerships and public events. External facing only, no operational authority." There was no applause, just a quiet wave of visible relief. "We're ending the zero alcohol line and influencer tastings," I continued. Effective immediately. No more juice bar branding. No wellness gimmicks. No neon labels. I paused, letting that land. We returned to what made us valuable: heritage quality exclusivity. That means clean supply chains, trusted distributors, and transparent logistics. Real farming, not marketing theater. Someone at the far end of the table murmured, "Thank God." I allowed a small smile. Departments will submit real-time reports. Expert oversight will be reinstated. Hiring resumes this week with priority given to those who know how to walk a grove, not just stage 1. There were nods now. Pens moving. Quiet energy rising. When the meeting ended, I didn't linger. I walked past the break room, down the hall, and out onto the overlook where the east fields met the sun. Matteo was already there, a photographer, snapping shots of him leaning against a barrel in designer denim. He waved stiffly when he saw me. I gave a nod back, nothing more. He was in his place now. Not at the helm, but in the light. The backbone was back where it belonged. That evening, I opened the weekly revenue report and let the numbers speak for themselves. 2 months passed. The quarterly numbers came in at sunrise, clean, staggering, undeniable. Our best in the company's history. Distributors returned, European accounts reopened. 2 major buyers who had ghosted during Matteo's wellness phase signed back with twice their original volume. The press called it a rebirth. Leone Orchards rooted again. The phrasing was laughable. We were never unrooted. We were just left in the wrong hands. I didn't need to issue a statement. The products did it for me. Shipments went out on time. Labels were clean and classic again. The almonds Marcona Butte Nonpareil were back in kitchens that mattered. Not juice bars, not PR stunts. I watched it all from the terrace above the processing barn. The same hill I used to walk alone during breaks between shifts when there was no budget, no team, just me and the math. Now it was different. The gravel road had been repaved. The drip line installation I fought for had finally reached the outer orchards. The rows were neat again, disciplined, proud. Mateo posed well at trade shows. His smile was real enough. He handed out samples and hashtagged everything in sight. I let him. It kept him out of operations and gave the press something polished to photograph. The staff called him mascot behind closed doors. I didn't correct them. My phone buzzed next to my wine glass. A message from Ilaria. Sunday dinner, just family. I stared at it for a long time. No attached agenda, no polite pressure. Just 8 words softer than any she'd used in months. I typed back, "Sounds good. I'll bring wine. No need for strategy anymore. No negotiations left to win." I leaned back in my chair and lifted my glass of the 2019 Reserve, the one I'd named after my grandfather, the one no one believed in until the sommeliers started requesting it by number. The sky burned gold, then indigo. Below the orchard swayed in rhythm with the wind. I took a slow sip, closed my eyes, and whispered into the dusk. They thought they could replace the roots. But the orchard still speaks my name. And this time I didn't need anyone to echo it back.